Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to our Inside the Ecosystem track. My name is Nick Wade, Group Manager of the Marketplace and the Ecosystem at Atlassian, and I'm very proud to welcome to the stage a few folks for a panel discussion session this afternoon from concept to Ka-Ching on Atlassian Marketplace. So we have a bunch of great folks. Firstly, Daniel Freeman, Head of Product Marketing at Atlassian. Roberto Dominguez, CEO of Kamala Tech. Tim Peterson, one of our lead developer relations people at Atlassian. And Raymond's, I'm going to let you introduce your last name. I'm not sure how to say.
Szymanowskis.
Okay, there you go. Raymond's from Easy One. Great, take it away, guys.
Before starting, just wanted to say, we may be a small group here, but we've got a group in this room that can change the face of Atlassian. And with what we've got with Connect, there's so much potential right here to make awesome apps and to build our ecosystem and build the future of Atlassian in a major way. So with that context, wanted to introduce you to everybody here so you get to know them on a real personal basis. And just wanted each of you to take a minute, share your journey about how you got involved at the Atlassian ecosystem.
Hi, I'm Roberto, Kamala Tech. Been working with Atlassian plugins since 2007. Just came up with an idea, started working on approvals. People noticed that Confluence needs some approvals, so came up with a approvals workflow for Confluence. So ever since, I've been just focusing on that. So we have an extra product, and we just recently came out with a new product for Atlassian On Demand.
Cool. I'm Tim. I'm a developer advocate with Atlassian. I've been with the company for about 7 years now. Previously, I've worked on Jira, Fisheye, Crucible, and most recently Stash. But my most recent project is working on Atlassian Connect, the next generation of Atlassian plugins.
Hi, I'm Raimons Szymanowskis, and I come from far, far away from country Latvia. So who knows where is Latvia? Oh, majority of it. That's great. I just want to tell that Latvia is specializing in California sports. So that the only medals that we got in last Olympics was in gold medal in BMX, where we beat Australian, was in second place, and in beach volleyball, where we got the third place. But there we won the US team on the quarterfinals already. So. Yeah, that's Latvia is California of Europe. So I'm the founder and core developer of a EasyBI plugin for Jira, which is to create reports, charts, and dashboards, and so now it's available on demand as well.
Alrighty. Well, while you got the mic, could you explain a little bit how you got started with Connect and what you wanted to accomplish with it so far?
So the history of EasyBI application is that it started as a software as a service, and it has different integrations with different other applications, and including Jira. And so initially, how it started that it was available as software as a service, but then many customers were asking, some large customers, that they have installed version of Jira, that they didn't trust the cloud yet, so therefore they asked for installable version of EasyBI, and that was why it was packaged as installable version. But now when the on-demand is available and more people are using on-demand, so now I'm coming back so that I can provide the same EasyBI plugin as using a new Atlassian Connect, and it was very well fitting for me, and it took just a week probably so to make initial prototype of EasyBI working using Atlassian Connect framework.
Interesting. So you've been thinking from day one, cloud apps behind the firewall.
Yeah, so I like web apps, so that's where I'm specializing in. And
Cool. Same thing for Roberto. Really, what got you started here with Connect?
With Connect, well, we've been following. We've been participating with Atlassian and all the camps, and I mean, it all started 2 years ago when the need when On Demand came out. Then Don Brown started talking about the remotable things. His framework, and to say, okay, let's say something is growing, it's a good idea. We were sitting on the fence, right, waiting for things to settle. We had the vision that this is the way to go, right, moving as much as possible to the browser, make the client think. So if our products 2 years ago, pretty much we started rethinking everything to say, okay, eventually we're going to make the move. So we start pushing everything in JavaScript. The code, the way we're doing things in JavaScript started growing big time. So make it simpler, right? More rendering. We start working on iframes. So start facilitating things. So then in March, remember we were talking about it, that we came in March for the launch of Blueprints, right? We have 2 products, Ad Hoc Workflows and Ad Hoc Canvas. When Blueprints came to Confluence, we came here for the launch. We started talking to Rich Manalang, we started talking to Dan for on-demand, got the idea, okay, now this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it, to remotable portion, not that much remote binary, but just like through REST APIs. So say, okay, cool, this is finally getting to a place. And because of the work we have already done, they say, okay, this is the time to make it, right? So we say, okay, what product do we do? So we chose Canvas. We have already Ad Hoc Canvas for behind the firewall. We chose Canvas because it was relatively simple. So we decided to just jump into it, right? Because again, it's the growth, right? We know that Atlassian on-demand is growing big time. So we are plugin vendors, add-on vendors. We want to be where when the business is going to be, where the growth is. So that's why we decided, okay, this is the time to make the move.
Yeah. So you got your vision, and now you've been going right at it.
Yeah.
Which leads me to the fun next question, which is about actually building shit. So, can you tell us about what you've been building, from the platform as a service to the pixels that end users would see?
Yeah, we had the dilemma, right? And this is what every vendor comes up with. Okay, I have this much code base. Oh my God, now I have to rewrite, change platform. What do I do, right? So we took a tough look at it. Okay, let's start from scratch. Let's say how we can do it. Let's see what we can do with it. Is it worth trying to migrate?
Yeah.
Because we already had separated most of our user interaction to an iframe, to JavaScript. So it's like, you know what? It's going to be better, simpler if we start from scratch. So that's what we did. Basically, we started from scratch. We wanted to do some UI refactoring as well. So we started, okay, so now that we're starting from scratch, it's a brand new product. Let's just go wild with the user experience.
Whole new experiences.
Exactly. We decided, and we had on board an excellent front-end developer. So we just give him the freedom, right? Okay, before he had to do a lot of limitations, now it's okay, you start from scratch, do it, go wild. So that worked out very well, right? So it's Confluent on its own, right? Then we were working on a moving target that was the on-demand platform, right? So it was crazy, right? But it's new technology. We knew it was going to be, it wasn't going to be easy. But we've been working very close with Atlassian guys. Miroslav knows.
Yeah.
We're working with Rich very close, with Tim, Bob. We've been pushing some pull requests, just to get it going. We wanted to be successful, so we need to help you guys to be successful. So we got to move fast. So that was
cool. Let's jump into an internal perspective on that same topic about building something from past, getting started. So Tim's got one of the coolest jobs in the entire company, to be able to help support so many folks in our ecosystem, and at the same time he gets to hack a lot too. So you want to talk about some of the things that you've worked on with Connect to help validate it as a proof of concept?
Yeah, absolutely. So internally we've built a couple of different applications. One of them is the Who's Looking add-on. Basically, it's just a little iframe that appears in a Jira issue showing who else is looking at the issue at the same time. That was just kind of a simple proof of concept, because that's one of the plugin points that's exposed via Connect, which is just the ability to provide a remote, what we call it a web panel, but it's basically an iframe view provided from an external web app anywhere in the interface, or anywhere where we support an external point. Personally, the first web app I built was a proof of concept Confluence macro. Which was a tag cloud. I was getting kind of into this JavaScript charting library called D3 at the time, and I wanted to see if I could build a word cloud chart on the server side using Node.js, and then post that as macro content to Confluence.
Okay.
And it's quite cool. And it's sort of it really illustrated to me that you could, so it was quite a computationally expensive process trying to figure out where you're going to lay out all these little words in a nice word diagram.
Yep.
And to put that into a separate server and have that all running there and then post that result to Confluence worked out to be a really efficient way to do it.
Where do you post it? What's your platform? How do you get it there? What's that process
so
like?
I ended up using Heroku as my, just the free tier on Heroku as my app server.
Okay.
And that worked surprisingly well. Actually, I was going to say, so I chose to do that in JavaScript because I was quite curious about learning about Node, but Kamalatek's traditionally been writing a bunch of Java plugins, right? And plugins too. I was curious about, so what made you choose to go to JavaScript?
I'm a recovering Java programmer. No, I mean, I think Java has become what we used to hate 18, 20 years ago. I think it's too big, right? Well, I mean, we have a lot of code base. I still get some code reviews and everything. We have product, but I'm a minimalist, so I want something simple. So when time came to choose the technology, also we don't know about SaaS and hosting, that kind of stuff. So it's okay. I know JVMs are resource-wise is not the best. So let's go minimalist. Let's go simple. I've been using Node for 2 years. Sorry, JavaScript. Big work focus on JavaScript for the last 2 years for our application. So for me, it was okay. So what do we do? Go back to the Java, continue doing the Java. Just create a REST service for Pete's sake in Java. I mean, it's a pain for Pete's sake. library this and container. In Node, it's just import, right? You just require the stuff done. It's so straightforward, right? So I said, you know what? We start from scratch. Let's start with new technology, right? So
yeah.
And our application is simple enough, so we can take the risk, right?
Yeah.
So sure, let's go, let's learn, and I love it. So I'm not like totally converted to JavaScript.
Nice.
And Node, yeah.
Nice.
So kind of the main reason you were drawn to Java in the first place was just because that's kind of the plugin framework that we supported in Atlassian.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So that's kind of, for me, I think that's one of the most powerful things about Connect. The fact that now you can bring your own technology stack.
Exactly.
If you're a .NET shop, you can use IIS and serve up a descriptor that way. Or if you're into JavaScript, you can use Node.
Yeah. So Raymond, what's your stack look like? How do you set it up?
So my stack is quite different, probably as compared to others, as historically. So I have been trying to avoid Java already for a very long time, and so therefore I like Ruby, I like JavaScript. So EasyBI is developed as a Ruby on Rails application, but running on JRuby, which is a Ruby implementation on JVM, and which allows me to use any existing Java libraries, as well as it's allowed to package as a Java-based Jira plugin. And in my case, I'm trying to reuse, so I didn't want to throw it away, and so I want to reuse it as much as possible. So therefore, I have my application in Ruby, and then I have an intermediate layer which translates all the calls. So either it's translated to the Java APIs when it's running inside the Jira plugin, or it's translating into REST API calls to Jira On Demand. And so, but the core application logic stays the same. So in terms of hosting, so I already had a platform where to host. I'm using Linode, where I'm hosting my service. And also what I would suggest that what I see in some discussion groups, that people are thinking, well, it will be very expensive now, probably I need to have separate Java virtual machine for each customer, and well, I will pay gazillions of dollars for that. Well, so if you go for a hosted service, I would really recommend that think of the shared one JVM process, one server, which handles a lot of customers, because so there the average load on your system, so you really need to tackle the peak load of one customer, because so the average will really average out, and so it will be much more cost effective if you design that it's just one application which then identifies which calls coming from which on-demand site, and so it will be reduced dramatically your hosting costs. So don't try to
how did you go about building up the experience to shift from this binary that gets loaded right inside of Jira to architecting a multi-tenant design with it at Linode?
Well, so I kind of started with this multi-tenant design, and so I kind of have this experience in when you build web applications, so then you don't build a separate application for each your customer. So you typically start with this thinking that you have just one application server, so it should handle many customers, and then it will be much easier to scale, so I don't know. So as I understand it, for Atlassian it was much harder, so to do that, probably because you didn't design Jira from the very beginning as multi-tenant application. So therefore, it takes probably I don't know. So what's can you comment on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it definitely did take us years to get us to the point where we have like a really kind of nice scalable model for our on-demand offerings, and it's still underway today. Like it's still a work in progress. We're trying to break a lot of those shared, a lot of our kind of single stateful services out into these kind of stateless shared things. There's actually a big project going on at Atlassian at the moment to figure out how we can reduce those costs of running the 80,000 or so JVMs that we're maintaining in our data centers.
Yeah, so great stuff. I learned a lot in that segment. The next one we got coming up here, maybe it's a little bit of hopeful phrasing here, but what have been the challenges, if any, that you have encountered with Connect so far?
Let me get the list. Let's be honest. I mean, it's new technology, right? It's new technology. Of course, there have been challenges. I mean, the stability, the APIs. Again, we're the early adopters, so it was going to be difficult. We knew it was going to be difficult. Challenge as well. You know, you're dealing now with two teams, right? We have interface through Miroslav or to Reach and everything, but I mean, Miroslav is working with the Connect team, and then he has to talk to the conference team, and they have to try negotiate.
Right. So is it the APIs, the documentation?
The API, the approaches, and everything. I think that's something that become evident. But then again, it's a new product, so we expected there, right? So new technology. So yeah, that was a challenge. There's some pieces that then from being able to do everything, right? Because all our plugins were V2, so I can do everything. Even stuff that Atlassian doesn't even know we can do.
Yeah, you're completely
autonomous. We're just doing
and
everything, and then all of a sudden, okay, now you have to stick to the APIs. But then again, I like working with limitation because he forces you to be creative, right?
Right. So
that worked out very well.
So to some degree, there's limitations, but then the limitations are opportunities to do it in a new way.
Definitely, and again, if embrace the limitations, right? We could say, oh my God, I cannot do it this way, not going to do it. Well, rethink the whole thing, right?
Okay.
Sure, there are a lot of things that you're going to do, but then again, the profile, the type of customers that use on demand are so different that they're behind the firewall.
Yeah.
So why bother trying to mimic? Of course, I cannot do exactly what I'm doing with ad hoc workflows and ad hoc canvas. That's obvious. Then what? Well, let's come up with different use cases. So from that perspective, I think I just embraced it and I liked it, right?
Yeah.
But summarizing, I mean, again, there were some issues. I mean, I wouldn't say anything been that difficult, but then again, you're there first.
Before we dig into this for Raymond's, because I definitely want to get his perspective on the same question, and Tim for that matter as well. But even though there were the limitations, have you been able to create the user experience that you have strived to overhaul and deliver?
As far as pretty much most of it. Right now, something where we're still stuck or limited is this is a term you guys are using, the chattiness of the interfaces, right? So in order for me to get a permission, I had to make 2 requests to Confluence, right? In a plugin hosted on the same VM as that is running is not perceptive at all, right?
Yeah.
But you have a single server responding for many things. You get the request from on demand. You fulfill it. So it's responding to 2 requests for 2 locations. Every time you have to make an extra call, is going to have an impact, right? If it's a half a second, a quarter of a second, people are going to perceive it, right?
Yeah, so it's definitely something we're running to ourselves.
And I keep pushing Miroslav guys, what I send in a picture. Every time you had to make an unnecessary call, God kills a kitten, right? Yes, yes, I know I can do everything through REST, but if you can help me, give me on my iframe, give me X, Y, Z parameters that is trivial to figure out, just give it to me.
So just to give
Just give it to me. Send me a call.
Yeah.
Save a kitten.
Just to give a bit of context to that, so when the Atlassian application makes a call out to your Connect app, it provides some context as part of the query parameters to that iframe URL so that your server can figure out what content to provide back to the Atlassian application for display. So one of the things that we're looking at doing is overhauling that query parameter system so that you can get things like permissions and richer data from that. You should see it in a soon. It's definitely if it's slated for 1.0.
I'll save lots
should
of
be a
kittens.
number of weeks. Yeah. Indeed, save the kittens.
Call him the Humane Society over there. Raymond.
Yeah, so I comment one story that initially I caused for myself a little bit trouble. That you can, for example, you can make if you make a separate tab in user interface, you can make conditions, remote conditions. So when to which users to display this information. And okay, I made it. Okay, let's check my backend server all the time, whether it should be displayed. And then, so when I also get just user key, but then I ask back Atlassian server, what are user groups which it belongs to, and then I get back a response. And then, okay, that was running fine in test, but then it was installed. I asked Rich Manuel to install it on ecosystem Atlassian.net. And so as a result, so all the users which were now visiting, all the public users which were visiting this public website were hitting my server. So these requests were waiting until making REST requests back to the Atlassian servers and waiting back. So I had huge waiting requests. So my monitoring starting to ping me so that there are some timeouts. And well, I kind of created a denial of service attack on my servers. So I figured this out. So then I started doing more caching on these requests, and then didn't allow for public. Didn't show it at all. So that's one challenge that you try to avoid denial of service attacks on your servers. So
No,
I feel bad.
And that's exactly
Especially
the right solution.
self-inflicted.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because the permissions in Jira are all group-based right at the moment. That's exactly the right approach. Like we can cache those permission check URLs fairly aggressively.
So it would be nice if you probably to get these requests already passed this information already to the add-on so that you can figure it out. And there are also some other probably technical issues where that now everything runs in iframes, and because of these stupid advertisers, so they are now fighting with the browser vendors, and so there are a lot of browsers. For example, Safari browser by default will block any cookie from a third-party website. So if your web application is running inside iframe and the user hasn't visited this iframe domain separately as a main page, Safari, for example, will block any cookies to that. And if you wanted to rely on cookies as to store state information, well, you have a problem. So you'll get. So this is also a little bit. So what I didn't find out during the testing, and what Atlassian approval also didn't find out in the testing. So we're also using Google Chrome and not Safari. So you need to then pass some additional header parameters or query parameters, and but it is so that's currently maybe web application, so that by default everything thinks that if it's some iframe, then it's some advertising and not a business application.
Well, it sounds like a whole new set of problems to some degree, and the question kind of boils down to is like, which O'Reilly books have you been reading? Because and new engineering skills have you been trying to hone in on, so that you feel confident that you're switching from the behind the firewall plugin to a SaaS app, and confident that service is delivering exactly what the customer's needs. What have those skills been?
So it's basic web application. So now the new this Atlassian framework is based on standard web technologies, and so then the HTML, JavaScript, and
Well, that particular problem that you ran into, like that definitely shouldn't be your problem. Like the third-party cookies not being able to be set by your application is definitely something that we need to.
So probably we together need to build a more knowledge base. So what are recommended practices? As this is kind of so probably if you have just read maybe Facebook discussion groups, as the Facebook applications, for example, has been running in such iframes. So when you search for these problems, quite often you find out, well, in Facebook applications you had the same problem because they were also using similar model for that. So I think that
that's
just
a
over
great
time,
resource for you to
just over time, well, this knowledge base will be built.
Absolutely.
We'll know it's what potential pitfalls are, what we can face.
Well, and as you know, we're in sort of still a kind of very much a beta state at the moment. We definitely owe you guys a lot for like isolating these issues while we're developing it. So we do have a solution to that third cookie problem, as you mentioned, which is signing the iframe URLs and passing that context in, rather than allowing you to create a session yourself. So when we go live with 1.0, we should have proper platform documentation which will illustrate how to solve all these kinds of problems, and some example applications to allow you to get kickstarted with it.
And one additional comment, what I want to tell, was very good as with all Atlassian products, that the source code for was available as I am as an open source guy as well, so I always prefer at first look at source code, and if I can't figure it out, so then ask the author, so what's going on. So as a source code, I was available for these remote plugins.
Yeah,
so
that's a good idea, having
helpful.
it open source, because it saves a lot. You just look at it, and you also looking at the change requests, all the stuff, seeing it. Yeah, it's good too.
Well, and you've submitted a couple of pull requests, both Atlassian Connect and one of our client applications based on Node as well.
Nice.
It's been fascinating actually. This is definitely one of the most open projects I've ever worked on at Atlassian. Certainly, like we are very open. Like we publish our source code for anyone with a commercial license.
Yep.
But Connect, we've been working on an open repository on Bitbucket. You can check it out yourselves if you like.
Yep.
We are in your debt for some of the code the pull requests you've created.
Do we have any corporate developers in here? Anybody? Okay, we got one. We've got two. Okay, we got a couple. I wonder whether for those folks, Roberto or Tim, think through how this Connect technology can become relevant and for future cases, for apps that may be behind the firewall or companies that want to use Connect with Atlassian On Demand.
I see. I mean, right now, it's specifically for on demand. I don't know if corporate is going to go on demand, right? But as a connect, as a way of, as Atlassian Connect for behind the firewall, I think it's a good idea. I mean, eventually we had to merge our two products, right? I can, integrate my changes, or I can port my on-demand to
Behind the firewall.
Behind the firewall. That's going to be easier than integrating. So I think on many situations, it might be easy. Again, you work with limitations. You get to be creative, and you minimize conflict points, right? So I think it's a good approach. Trying to identify, try to come up with a solution with a limited interface, than trying to say, okay, you're on the JVM, you can do everything well. So I think it's a good approach, and then whether or not you end up implementing it all the way as on demand. Using Connect, I think you're gonna gain a lot just trying to model it from that perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, so we definitely see Atlassian Connect as the desirable way to go forward with extensibility in our products. It's not just kind of a hack so we can have plugins and on demand. It's actually like we think that we should have these isolated services providing additional functionality into our products.
Yeah.
So the end game is definitely to have exactly the same experience behind the firewall as you do for developing for on demand.
Yep.
Just because you do get that isolation, so that if there's an infinite loop sitting in your plugin, like under the plugins 2 model, then your server shuts down and that request thread is gone forever,
right.
which is a problem.
Right.
But now you've got this kind of isolation where it's existing in a little iframe, and providing extensible functionality,
Yeah.
and the end user can't tell the difference, right?
Yeah, funny on that same topic, I chatted with the guys from yp.com yesterday, and they had a really interesting perspective on that, where they're saying, oh wow, actually for both my custom plugins and remote one, or future ones, I'd actually prefer for them to be all as a service, either in my private cloud or via your pass, because then like my updating and all the different contingencies on my server are going to reduce significantly. So I feel like there's an interesting opportunity there, both for plugin developers to deliver a service for those corporate developers, so their lives are easier in upgrading, and as well for them in their own development. It seems like a neat wave of the future for
Absolutely.
applicability of everything you're doing today.
Well, and there's so many exciting things you can do that you just can't do when you're limited to running inside the same JVM as the host app.
Yep.
Like if you wanted to, say, take Confluence for example. If you wanted to have like a graph-based search similar to like Facebook's graph search, good luck trying to embed a graph database inside Confluence without kind of blowing out the memory and infecting the experience for everybody. But if you can build it as a separate service which just has these lightweight hooks, then you can do that, which is awesome.
Digging into another topic altogether, one is about benefits of SaaS apps. So with something that we've learned in having Atlassian On Demand is, there's this user analytics data, there's ability for continuous deployment. I'm wondering how you guys have been able to benefit from those or leverage those benefits or plan to in the future.
Well, the deployment, continuous deployment, right? I think we're aiming at deploying, I don't know, once, twice a week, right? Well, try that on a JVM plugin.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to happen. Analytics, you get to understand better how people are using your application, even without wanting to. I mean, you're going to get, what, the hits on the hit. You get to know how it's working, what feature is going to be working better. Again, it's in combination that we will also make it very easy to people to provide feedback right into the application, and that feedback is contextualized. So I know that somebody gave me some feedback when they were working on the designer of boards. Cool. Now I know it's easy for me to catch up. It's better that. I mean, deployment, I think, would say the boss.
So I want to comment that in terms of support perspective, it's also much easier from my what I have experienced from my software service support experience. That if you compare that for installable Jira plugin, so we're still supporting Jira starting from 4.3, 4.4, 5.0, 5.1, 5.2, 6.0, 6.1. Then we support MySQL database, PostgreSQL database, Microsoft SQL database, Oracle database. Then we support Linux. Then we support Windows. So multiply it all. So practically all customer installations are unique. And so if sometimes some technical thing breaks, I need to investigate a lot of it, get a log file, so what's happened. So in the software service version, you have just one version, just the latest version. The second thing is that if something breaks, so you can ask customers, so can we take a look on your data and can we fix them if there's any problem? So you have access to the data, and so in general, so it takes much less support effort, and you can get much better customer service to your customers. So
you mentioned you had some pretty sophisticated monitoring set up as well. So I imagine in some cases you might find an error before the customers do even.
Oh, yeah. So in the case, if there are, so there is continuously monitoring. So whether its response time is fine. So if something's totally bad, so you can automatically restart some services if they break. So for investigating, if customer tells that there is some problem, you don't need to ask. So no, send the whole your hard disk drive, your copy to me, so that I can recreate the problem. So you can much easier to find out what's wrong in that particular setup. Cool.
Nice. It's interesting. There's kind of an irony, because I felt, in thinking of Roberto in your situation where you're going, oh wow, there's a whole bunch of skills. Now I have to make sure I'm monitoring my app and make sure it's present at all times. And that seems like this crazy new workload and 24/7. How do I support that in my team? And then Raymond's is like, oh wow, actually, as I've had some experience with this, it's actually easier and has a less time impact by only maintaining one version. So interesting
There's
perspective.
definitely a trade-off, and it is doable, right? It's doable. I mean, we panic. I mean, you do download plugins. You never hosted a service, maintain a product. I mean, I'm not even close to say I know what to do or I'm an expert yet. But I mean, until you start doing it, you find that, with all the technology out there, I mean, there's Heroku, they give you a lot of support. There's good monitoring tools. In our case, it helps that we have people in 3 time zones: Australia, Canada, Vancouver, and Spain. We almost got the 24/7 cover there, but even then, I mean, it's doable, as I said. Yeah.
Nice. We got a couple minutes left, and wanted to see whether there's some burning questions from the audience of things you want to challenge or learn from here with Raymond's, Tim, and Roberto. Any questions? Yeah, please.
Would you wish to?
Here's the microphone.
Would you wish to have not to maintain 2 versions of your plugin, one for on-demand, one for on-premise, but all in one? Wouldn't that be easier?
Oh yeah. It's coming, basically, and as I mentioned, I mean, for sure we want to keep it as close as possible. We know it's not going to be possible, right, because of the code base, but we're working on that, right? So the dilemma is, should I port or should I extend? There's always that, right? But again, we're going to try to merge as much as possible. Again, so one of the things that they have to be different, just suck it up, right? There are 2 products, you have to maintain technologies. I think if you see the potential, it is worth it, right? You do it if it's worth it. It's not going to be easy, but I think it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, I mean,
it depends on your plugin functionality, and in our case, so 90% of the code, actually, in our case, the source repository is the same for the application. It's just either it's packaged as installable plugin or it's deployed to the hosted service, and then the 90% of the code is the same, which is used. So it really depends what your plugin is doing, and if you can do everything through the REST API, and you probably need to think, so can you make this common code and then just make some adapters so that it talks either via native Java APIs or via REST APIs, and so it should be evaluated in each case.
And of course, this is, at the end of the day, this is sort of a bridging period, because we will eventually be allowing Atlassian Connect apps to be installed behind the firewall as well.
Yeah.
So you should be able to use the same framework in both places.
Yes, it will over time. Another question.
Yeah, what's your JavaScript libraries of choice?
We are using Backbone and underscore. That's on the browser side. On the back end, we're using Express. We use Node. We're using Express. We're using Mocha for testing. We do a lot of testing. We're using Backbone, and actually not that much Backbone, but underscore. We use handlebars. Pretty much.
How about for monitoring?
For monitoring, we're using Pingdom. We're doing Pingdom. Well, again, you have the freedom. What we've done, we created a special service that is not only the ping, but is we do a database access. So we kind of test, our stack somehow, and we're monitoring response time. So and that's what I'm going to trigger, when to do. But yeah.
So we're down to about 1 minute. So I'd love to get Raymond's
just comment out
question.
that in terms of JavaScript library, so we are using CoffeeScript to write JavaScript, which generates JavaScript code. But we as well use Backbone.js and _JS, and then some jQuery UI libraries. Use Jasmine for JavaScript unit testing, and handlebars templates as well.
Yeah.
And I favor the same backend as in Node.js. So there's an Atlassian Connect Express app, which is basically a sample Node server that you can use, and that'll spin up and do all of the OAuth authentication and script registration automatically for you. And then you can basically build your own application on top of that. So it's a great template to get started with.
Yeah.
On the front end, I'm Angular at the moment, is my...
Yeah. Well, with that, one quick question for 30 seconds. Here we go.
How do you handle multi-tenancy? Do you have a schema per client, or do you have like a column for each client and sort of have everything in one database?
So in that Atlassian Connect Express, the template node app, it's just basically there's a column which specifies which particular tenant you're querying data for at the moment.
We use we use a single database. We use JavaScript web tokens for authentication. So because a lot of the access is through the browser, so we sign requests, we sign the access control. This client can only access content on this Confluence instance and on this page, because there's an extra level you're getting in Confluence. But yeah, we use single database and with secured access control.
In our case, we use combination of both. So there's common one database where some metadata about each customer, and then there is for this reporting purposes there is automatically generated separate schema for each customer. So when importing some data for reports needs.
Yeah. So closing in this one, little business stat from Atlassian is that for many of our products, we're over 50% of the product evaluators now are starting with on-demand. And that's how they're getting introduced to Atlassian products. The flexibility that we've delivered behind the firewall, that request is constant, whether it's on demand or whether it's a behind the firewall app. So hopefully, this panel and this discussion and some of our trailblazers here have shared a bunch of information so we can all get to a spot where we're delivering that same level of flexibility for all the demand there is for the on-demand users out there. So this time next year when we meet again at Summit, I think there's going to be a ton of great success stories based on what we learned today. Thank you all for coming.